Hi guys, welcome back to my office again in the woods. It's beautiful. Today I wanted to do a little trial setup of a tarp setup. While you're wild camping with your bike, there's always that worry that it might go walkies in the night, and you obviously got to leave it outside your tent, and it's always a bit like, oh, is it still there? So I wanted to see if I could combine the tarp with the bike to make a bike tarp setup. So I've never done these before, and I don't know if it'll work or how well it'll work. And it's just going to be a bit of an experiment to see if it's something I would actually consider using while bike packing or on my adventures. So that is what today's video is going to be about. I've got 3 bike tarp setups in my head that I think could possibly work, and we're going to test them out. And if they work, they work. If they don't, they don't. And we'll just go from there. Also, I will be not using any of the trees around me as any anchor points or anything. It's just going to be on the flat ground, because majority of the time I find myself camping, it's in like a field or something and there is no trees around. So I'm not going to be using any trees. So let's get into this. 3 bike tarp setups. First one is front wheel off using the handlebars. Let's see if it works. Let's do it. Okay, well, the first idea just didn't really work, to be honest, and I wouldn't think it would even be worth it, even if it would work, because having to take your wheel off, you could sort of accept. You also have to take your luggage off the back of your bike, which just like, oh, can't be bothered with that. Also, you're gonna get loads of gunk in your front dropouts, which is not nice. And generally it's just a hassle to try and get that balance point of the tarp and the bike setup. So for me, that one is just like a complete waste of time. It did not work at all. So I'm going to go for another option which should be a bit more stable. So the next one we're going to try is putting the bike upside down with both wheels on, and hopefully we'll be able to maybe get a bit of a tarp setup going on while it's upside down. Maybe being upside down will mean it will balance a bit better. This one surprisingly did work. To be honest, I'm not using the best tarp for this. It could do with a couple more guide ropes here and one in the middle, so I've just sort of put some weight on it there. But with that being said, it does technically work. It is very simple, very basic. I do believe you could actually, it did take me a little bit of time to get this set up, but I think with a bit of practice, you definitely could get it set up a bit quicker, especially if you had like the guide ropes already attached. But let's just like head inside, and let's just see. It is quite small, as you can tell. To be honest, you can just about sit up in here, as long as you built it so wherever the weather was coming from was that way, then I think you would be okay. There's enough room to sort of get your head down and sleep. It's probably just, obviously that will depend more on the tarp itself. This one works. Would I use it? I'm not sure. The bike feels pretty solid there, and it doesn't feel like it's going to fall over. However, in a really heavy windy storm, I'm not sure this would really be that ideal. I'm not sure I would trust it not falling over. Now, something to be said is if you are going to leave your bike upside down for long periods of time, especially if you have hydraulic disc brakes, like a lot of people do nowadays. Some brakes just don't like that, and it's in the long run you might find yourself needing to bleed your brakes a bit more. It's one of them things, it's like it might never happen and it might be fine, and who cares, bleeding brakes is kind of easy anyway. So that one works, but would I use it? I'm not sure. Okay, so we're going to do one more, and this one's probably going to be impossible. I don't know how this is going to work because I don't have enough tent pegs, but I want to be able to see if I can do this setup but the correct way round, to then avoid having any risk to your brakes. Let's see if we can do this. Actually using like guide ropes on each side of it to make it more stable, but I did actually manage it. It was a bit of a hassle, but that could be achieved faster with a bit of practice, and I think if you just actually guide roped each side of the bike to actually make it stand up, it would be easier. Now obviously, like I said before, you'd be better off doing this with a tarp with lots of anchor points to the tarp, because this only has 4 on this one, so it is quite exposed. Ideally you'd want to bring that down and make it all more torque at the back here, and obviously here, if they had an anchor point here, you could bring it out, make it a little bit more stronger. But that being said, technically it does work. So now we're in here. Now just ignore the fact that I don't have enough guide ropes on here to actually make it a solid structure. You can actually sit quite comfortably in here. You could definitely like make some coffee in here and it would be all right. The bike is pretty sturdy. Still be a bit worried if it was a bit windy, but I think you could overcome that if you actually like guide roped off each side of the bike. I just don't have them with me today. So this one does technically work. So I guess the question is, would I actually use that in real life while out bikepacking? Well, it's kind of a no for me, really. I think I could probably get it to be better, and obviously with a better tarp, and it could work. And obviously then that means you don't really need, you could go light, even lighter. But I think with how light a nice little hooped bivvy is, and how quick they are to just mount anywhere without the hassle of trying to balance your bike, I think I would just stick with a hooped bivvy and then take a tarp with me, and then if I'm in somewhere I can mount it with some trees or something, then use that as well. So I feel like the bike tarp sort of setup is more of it's a cool thing to be able to do, but in real life you probably won't really need to use it. But saying that, it is obviously great if you're out and you can just do something like that or whatever if needs be. Obviously the reason I wanted to test that is because the main worry for a lot of people is when you go wild camping, what about your bike? But ultimately, while you're wild camping, you should be so far away from people, and you should always start you should always start setting up your camp just sort of as the sun is going down, just as it's starting to get dark, and you should be aware of your surroundings, what is there, have a little check around, and as soon as it gets dark, nobody's going to be around. So essentially, because you have to cover your bike, you actually end up needing to take a bigger tarp than you probably could do if you just took one just for yourself. So ultimately, I think it's a big no for me, but it is cool to be able to do, and it does technically work. So if you just wanted to go out and camp with your bike under the stars, right next to your pride and joy, you know, give it a try, why not? I will say you probably need a tarp that has at least 6 sort of holes in it for the guide rope, because this one only has 4. It's actually for a hammock. So that was just a little bit of fun today, checking out if I could build a tarp, bike tarp shelter. And it turns out you kind of can. It's kind of pointless, but you kind of can. So that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, guys, keep smiling, enjoy the adventures. Peace.